In a few minutes more, there was a slight motion of the body, and presently the man in the coffin made an effort to raise himself, and with assistance did rise and speak. Hello there. Welcome to Headlines and Voices, where we look at amazing newspaper articles from 100+ years ago. Some of these things are so absolutely fascinating, and today is no different. We actually have two articles we're going to look at today on the topic of being buried alive, or thought to be dead but not really dead. And before we read them, just a reminder that we're sponsored by Audio Mover. Audio Mover is the company that takes your old audio and videotapes, your history, and converts them to digital so you can have a permanent archive. So if you have old audio and videotapes, or if you know somebody that does, most people do, go to audiomover.com. You can get your order started there. And when you get into checkout, if you type in the keyword headlines, you can get 15% off your order. So we encourage you to do that. Go to audiomover.com and get your order started. And of course, if you like history, if you enjoy American history like this, and if you like these articles, please give us a thumbs up, follow the channel, and especially leave comments below. Let us know what kind of topics you're interested in so we can do some research and find those other topics. And if you like this kind of topic, let us know. So anyway, like I said, these articles that we found today, there's two of them, and they're really fascinating. And they're about this idea of being buried alive. You know, every once in a while today, you hear of these things where somebody was taken down to the morgue in a hospital, and then they found out later they weren't actually dead. It's pretty rare, but you do hear about it periodically. Well, people, long time ago, this is, well over 100 years ago. Look at this first article we're going to look at is in 1864. Yeah, so this is well over 100 years ago. People were worried about this back then, this whole possibility that you'd be in a casket underground and then you would come back to life and revive. There were times back in this era and before where they would actually put bells on a string down through the ground into the casket. So if somebody came back to life or revived, they'd be able to pull on this string and, of course, ring the bell above the ground, and people would know that, that the person was actually alive down there. And so it was something that people were very, very afraid of back at this time. And so much so that there's even a couple of articles here written on this topic, and that's what we wanted to read today. The first one we're going to read is from a publication called The Big Blue Union, and this is October 1st, 1864. The Big Blue Union, October 1st, 1864. And the article is called A Narrow Escape. Another miraculous escape from the horrors of actually being buried alive has just taken place in New Orleans. A person by the name of Martin was supposed to have died from disease of the heart, and to every outward appearance was dead. The attending physician had given his certificate of burial, certifying to the cause of death, and the supposed corpse had been prepared and encoffined. Near and dear ones had shed tears over the loss of one whom they supposed dead, and whose body they had carefully prepared for the silent precincts of the tomb, when the fortunate thought presented itself that the body should be embalmed. The necessary steps were taken, the coffin carefully closed up, and the body sent to an embalming establishment adjoining Bell's Union Stables on Carondelet Street. Here, the process of embalming was in due time entered upon. It appears that in the process which preserves the body from immediate decomposition, the preserving quality is infused into the system by means of an incision into the main artery of the arm. The incision is made with a lancet in the same manner as in the case of bloodletting. Bloodletting was a form of, people thought that you could actually be healed, or when people were really ill, they'd actually bleed themselves. They would cut themselves and a certain amount of blood would come out, and they would think that would possibly remove the disease that was in your body. So the point here is that they would do this the same way as with live people when they were letting blood out. This was the process. The embalmer had commenced his work by making the necessary incision, and to his surprise, he discovered blood feebly oozing from the vein. He knew that there must be life where blood would flow, and desisted from his work of embalming. In a few minutes more, there was a slight motion of the body, and presently the man in the coffin made an effort to raise himself, and with assistance did rise and speak. Gentle restoratives were administered, and he was soon able to converse. And he desired to know how it was he found himself in a coffin clothed in a white shroud. The matter was soon explained to him. His friends, to their joy, were advised of what had taken place, and he was sent to the hospital instead of the grave, where he is now in a fair way of recovering. This is indeed a miraculous escape from the clutches of death. Gotta wonder, number one, if it's a true story, how you could possibly think that a person was dead when certainly at some point during the process there must have been some breath at some point. Anyway, it's fascinating. Maybe there's some science behind this that I don't understand, but just imagining long periods of time going without breathing, motion, oxygen, anything, any sign of that, how somebody could possibly survive. But anyway, interesting story nonetheless. So we have one more. This one has several different examples. It's also a short article, but it just kind of has a few different things in it. This is from the Fayetteville Observer, March 18th, 1852. And this one's called Buried Alive. Pliny mentions the case of a young man of high rank who, having expired some time, as it was thought, was placed upon the funeral pile, P-I-L-E it says. The heat of the flames revived him, but he perished before his friends could rescue him. The great anatomist Vesalius had the unspeakable misfortune to commence the dissection of a living body, apparently dead. Less unhappy was the fate of the Abbé Prenost, who fell apoplectic. It says apoplectic, but recovered his consciousness too late under the scalpel. Preparations were made to embalm the body of Cardinal Somaglia. The operator had scarcely penetrated into the chest when the heart was seen to beat. Returning partially to his senses, he had sufficient strength to push away the knife, but the lung was mortally wounded. In one of our journals is recorded the strangely interesting case of the Reverend Mr. Tennant of New Jersey, who lay in his shroud 3 days and was saved from interment almost by a miracle. We find a collection by Breuer of no less than 52 cases of persons buried alive, 4 dissected prematurely, 53 who recovered after being coffined, and 72 falsely considered dead. Anyway, it's really fascinating, this whole idea, something that they were very, very worried about back then, and maybe for a reason that they didn't completely understand. Maybe there were a lot of people that didn't understand that that person's not really dead. It makes you glad that we live in the day that we do, where we have so many different tools of determining such a thing. Anyway, I find these things absolutely fascinating, and hopefully you do too. And please give this video a thumbs up and follow our channel. And if you have any comments or thoughts about different types of videos, the articles you'd like us to look up, please, or just comments about this particular topic, please leave some comments below. Thanks for listening. Headlines and Voices is sponsored by Audio Mover, the company that takes your history, your old audio and videotapes, and converts them into digital. Visit audiomover.com to learn more. Headlines and Voices is a production of Thick and Mystic Media. Visit thickandmystic.com.